Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Indiana Overtime. Obviously not from Cameron Indoor in Durham, North Carolina, but back in Bloomington, Indiana, where I just watched. I'm Alex McCarthy from Inside Indiana, and just watched a little bit ago Indiana lose to Duke, 94-74 in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Obviously, this was not a game that people expected Indiana to win, but I think a lot of people kind of came into it expecting Indiana to maybe, I think maybe a lot of people wanted to come into this game and wanted to see Indiana prove that they were maybe a little bit better than they played in Maui, and Indiana didn't really prove that tonight. They obviously lost. I think Duke was favored by 10 by game time, and Indiana lost by twice that many. So obviously not a very encouraging performance by Indiana. Duke is able to shoot 53% from the floor, and they grabbed 19 offensive rebounds. Um, they really just kind of had their way with Indiana. Definitely on the offensive end. Um, Indiana had some success on offense. I mean, they led actually this game for 8 minutes, which I didn't realize until I looked at the stats. Indiana shot, to get the positives out of the way. Indiana shot 51%, not bad. And they also only turned the ball over 9 times while dishing out 13 assists. So that's, um, if you've come here looking for positives, if you've come here looking for a little bit of solace, there are those facts, and then there's the fact that, as Tom Crean said a few times apparently during his post-game press conference, this is only December 3rd, December 2nd, depending on which side of midnight you fall. But it is still fairly early in the season, but um, based on what we've seen from this team, it just this isn't a good team yet. Basically, they're preseason number 15, moved up a little bit to number 13 before Maui, and then dropped out of the top 25 after losing to Wake Forest and UNLV. You know all this, um, but as of right now, they just really still haven't proven that they're a top 25 team. They haven't proven that they're, quite frankly, an NCAA tournament team, and who knows where they're going to fall in the Big Ten. It's kind of interesting to look at this 8 games in. Indiana's 5-3. They haven't really played that many really good teams. I mean, tonight was kind of the first time that they played, obviously, a top 10 team. Well, actually, this is the first time that they've played a ranked team. Um, so this is the first time that they've, really played at kind of a national power, and they didn't look great. I think that's maybe an understatement, but it's this is still a team that really hasn't really been able to find its way, especially on the defensive end. Thomas Bryant still struggles at times. We still see James Blackman and Troy Williams struggling at times on defense, and really just it's kind of a team-wide problem, I guess, on the defensive end. And it's really kind of difficult to figure out why that is because obviously it's a problem that Indiana knew it had to kind of correct during the off season, and it still hasn't really been able to. Duke was very, very efficient. They shot over 50%. They shot 46% from three. I think they scored like more than 1.5 points per possession, which is very impressive. Matt Jones kind of had a slow start, but ended up heating up in the second half. Brandon Ingram came out of nowhere. He had a game high 24 points. Really, really impressive performance for him. Emil Jefferson had 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 8 points, and it was kind of this was the Duke team that I think a lot of people expected to see, and this was the Indiana team that I think a lot of people, when they were thinking about worst case scenario, I think this was kind of the Indiana team that they're looking at. So Indiana sits at 5-3 through their first 8 games, and quite honestly, the non-conference schedule really just isn't very impressive for Indiana. That loss to Wake Forest really kind of torpedoed their strength of schedule. Where if they had won that game, obviously they would have played Vanderbilt, which was another ranked team. And even if they had lost that game, that would have been a quote unquote kind of good loss, or not necessarily a good loss, but at least a loss to a respectable program. But halfway through, more than halfway through, I guess the non-conference season, Indiana just still, their signature win is a home win against an unranked Creighton team. So Indiana's in a tough spot right now, and it doesn't look like it's really kind of taking steps to improve, at least on the defensive end. it is still early. You can't exactly count them out, but there really aren't very many signs that point to this team getting better anytime soon on the defensive end. They can still explode offensively at times. They can go on really hot runs, on hot streaks and things like that. But if you're not playing consistently on the defensive end, you're not going to win very many games. You're not going to beat top 10, top 15, top 25 teams. So going into Big Ten play, maybe this will be a different story for Indiana, but going into Saturday's matchup against Morehead State, still a lot more question marks than answers for Indiana at this point. So we'll be there obviously Saturday. That's a home game at Assembly Hall against Morehead State. We'll be providing full coverage from that. John Bauernfeind was there at Cameron Indoor tonight. It seemed like an awesome atmosphere. Really fun kind of experience for him to be there, and he wrote the game wrap, so definitely take a look at that. But we will be there Saturday. We'll be providing full coverage of that game, so be sure to tune in for that. I'm going to get off here because it's past midnight, and it's time to go to bed here. So thanks for watching. Have a good weekend, and we will talk to you soon.